Namaskar everyone and welcome to the Geeta Satsang. So let us start with a prarthana. By the Guru's grace and the will of Shri Krishna, we have all assembled for this Geeta Satsang. May we have their guidance to be able to learn and adopt the things which will help us to grow spiritually. Let us chant the shlokas. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnaya Vasudevaya Haraye Paramatmane Pranatah Kleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Namostu Te Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Ullara Vindaya Tapatra Netra Yena Tvaya Bharata Taila Purnaha Prajvalito Jnanamaya Pradipaha Ramanujataya Patram Jnana Vairagya Bhushanam Srimad Venkatanathāryam Vande Vedanta Deshikam Yo Nityam Achyuta Padambuja Yukma Rukma Vyamohatastaditarani Trinaya Mene Asmad Gurur Bhagavatosya Dayeka Sindho Ramanujasya Charanau Sharanam Prapadye. So with prayers at the lotus feet of the Acharyas, let us start our topic for today. So in the last satsang, we have taken the 31st shloka. So now we will move on to shloka number 32. So in this, Krishna continues to address Arjuna and he says to him, Ye tve tad abhyasuyanto nanu tishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudham stan vidhi nashtan achetasaha. So in the 31st shloka, Krishna had talked about the good qualities of people who follow his teachings. Here he says about the other opposite category of people. But those who find faults with my teachings, being bereft of knowledge and devoid of discrimination, they disregard these principles and bring about their own ruin. So in the previous 31st shloka, we had seen how Krishna talked about how somebody should take the teachings of Lord Krishna, which are the same as the teachings in the Upanishads, and either if we can do Anushtana, if we can follow those teachings, we should follow those teachings. If not, we should at least have Shraddha in those teachings. At the very least, somebody who is not envious of the Lord, who does not complain and find fault with the Lord, even if that basic quality is there, then that person can progress ahead. But here, Krishna is talking about the extreme opposite kind of people. Who are these people? These are the people who find fault with the Lord's teaching. These are the people who say, who is Krishna to tell all this? And such people, what happens to them? They are bereft of knowledge, means they don't have any knowledge. And they are devoid of discrimination. Discrimination is viveka, the ability to distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad, and so on. So they are devoid of that, means they don't have such discrimination power. What these people do, they disregard the principles. They do not pay attention. They neglect, they ignore the principles which Krishna is teaching. And because of that, they only bring about their vinasha. They bring about their own ruin. So we have to understand what Krishna is telling and how it can be our own situation, and we should avoid this situation. Now, whatever Krishna is telling, we said last time that it is whatever is told in the Bhagavad Gita is the gist of what is in the Upanishads. Now, all these teachings of the Lord, whether it is in the Bhagavad Gita, whether it is in the Vedas, whether it is in the other Upanishads or anywhere, they are all meant for our welfare. They are meant for uplifting us. But many of us can't appreciate this fact. And because of that, some people start finding fault with what Krishna is telling. Now, there are a lot of people who say, now in the 30th shloka we had seen, Krishna said that surrender everything to me. Now, who is Krishna? Why should we surrender to him? This is the kind of questioning that some people have. Now, why we should be surrendering to Krishna? Because he alone is Purushottama. I think in some previous satsang we have touched upon this, that what is the meaning of Uttama Purusha, Madhyama Purusha, and Adhama Purusha. So Adhama is the most inferior category of persons. Who are these persons? Those who want to have enjoyment for themselves, even at the cost of causing harm to other people. Who is the Madhyama Purusha, the category of people who say have the attitude of live and let live. They will not harm anybody else, but they will not go out of the way to help anybody else. They are concerned with their, pleasure, their comfort. But who is Uttama Purusha? Uttama Purusha is somebody who, even if it is troubling to him, even if there is discomfort for him, yet he will take actions in such a way that other people are able to thrive, that other people can have a good experience. So such people are called Uttama. Now, why this Lord is called Purushottama? Because in all times, he has always exhibited this quality of being willing to go to any length, being ready to do anything so that his devotees, so that the others do not suffer, so that they are taken out of their trouble. The biggest example is that of the Lord in Vamana Avatara. Now, this Lord, we call him by different names. No? You must have heard the Lord being addressed as Sarveshwara. He is Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Nayaka. He is the ruler of the entire universe. He is the ruler of this whole world. He is the supreme Lord. And yet, he did not hesitate to come down from that position, and he went like a beggar during Vamana Avatara. Why? For the sake of Indra, because Indra had lost all his assets. Indra had lost whatever belonged to him, and Indra's mother had begged the Lord. So this Lord was willing to step down from his position as Sarveshwara, become a simple young Brahmin boy, and go begging to get back those things which Indra had lost. So this itself is the supreme example of how this Lord, why he is the Uttama Purusha. Now, when he is the Purushottama, should we not listen to him? Should we not be paying attention to what he is telling? Isn't it? So, another reason why we should be listening to the Lord, because he alone is our true well-wisher. He is the one who has no hidden agenda in what he's teaching us. He has no vested interest. He is not going to tell us something because he's going to get something out of it. And moreover, he is Satyavakyan. So he is the one who always, whatever he speaks is indeed the truth. So such a person, whatever he speaks, should we not be listening to him? Right? And thirdly, if we are not going to be willing to believe the Lord, we know he is Sarveshwara. And if we say that what he is telling is not correct, then who is left for us as Adhara? Whom are we going to place our faith in? Whom will we believe then? Isn't it? So because of all these reasons, the Acharyas say that we must pay attention when the Lord is talking, and we have to do as he says. So as we said before, in the 31st shloka, the Lord was telling what are the benefits for people who follow the teachings, the path of Karma Yoga. Now in this 32nd shloka, he has told what are the pitfalls, what are the disadvantages, what are the dangers for those who don't follow this path. Now, if there is somebody who is finding fault with the teachings of the Lord, somebody who is envious of the Lord's words, somebody who does not even have Shraddha in his teaching, and somebody who does not adopt his teachings. So these kind of people, although in worldly terms we may say that they are very intelligent, but in reality, such a person is considered Ajnani. Such a person is completely ignorant. We have seen many such examples of people, isn't it? We know there are some people who are in very high positions. They are very highly educated. They are, leaders of some legendary institutions. They have everything in the world, what is considered as knowledge and status and power and fame. And then they call themselves rationalists, and they say that there is nothing called God. Who is this God? What is this need for Krishna? This is all simply nonsense. It is something which is cooked up by people. When they talk like this, we must recognize that these are the people who belong to this category of ignorant people. They may appear to have worldly wise intelligence. They may have gathered a lot of degrees to their credit. They may have studied a lot. They may have done a lot of research. But in reality, when they refuse to accept the Lord's teachings and they say there is nothing in this and they do not have Shraddha in the Lord, then such people are considered ignorant. And this ignorance of such a person, ultimately, it will lead that person to do certain actions, and because of those wrong actions there will be vinasha. There will be downfall of that person. Now the Lord does not want us to fall like this, and he wants that our welfare should be there at all times. He wants good to happen to us. In our this human janma, we say that there is nobody in this world who cares for someone like their mother does, isn't it? Because we say there are times when the child will refuse to eat, and that mother will scold and maybe even hit the child, but force it to eat. Why? Because she knows that it is important for the child to eat, to get the necessary nutrition and to be able to grow up well. Similarly, if the child is, making a fuss and insisting on getting a particular item and eating that, if the mother knows that it is going to be bad for the child, no matter how much that child screams and cries, she will not give it to that child. Why? Because she knows it is bad for the child. Similarly, the Lord also, we may think that whatever he is advising to us in the Gita, in the Vedas, all that is so difficult. How can we do all that? And why he is going on telling all this? But why the Lord is telling? Because he wants us to rise above this cycle of birth and death. He wants us to attain moksha. And that is why he is advising us. So this is what Krishna has been telling in this 32nd shloka. He says that people who find fault in my teachings, they are ajnanis. They don't have any knowledge, although they appear to be intelligent. And they don't have Viveka Shakti, then they don't listen to these teachings of mine. And because of that, they are ruined. There is complete vinasha of such people. Now he continues to the 33rd shloka and he's telling Krishna, now Arjuna has listened to all this and he's thinking that, okay, now Krishna is telling all this, but then why still he is not convinced that why I should not do Jnana Yoga? Why Krishna is so insistent on Karma Yoga? So Krishna comes back to that point again. And in the 33rd shloka, he says, Sadrisham cheshtate swasyaha prakritir jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even wise people, how do they behave? They act according to Prakriti, according to their nature. Why? Because all living beings are propelled, they are motivated, they are made to act by what? By their natural tendency. And what will one gain by repression, by pushing down, by suppressing these natural tendencies? Krishna is asking. So, to understand this, we need to understand. Till the 32nd shloka, Lord had talked about these three gunas, about different actions, about importance of following karma yoga. Now, from this shloka onwards, Krishna is trying to talk to Arjuna and tell him what are the difficulties in pursuing jnana yoga. Why he is telling this? Because Arjuna has been insisting that I don't want to fight. I'm not prepared to fight my own family people. I will go away. I will take sannyas and I will pursue the path of jnana yoga. So Krishna is trying to tell him how that jnana yoga is against the natural tendency of a person. Now, generally, we have seen that whenever we are talking to somebody, right? Someone, say a friend, is bent upon taking one particular mode of action. And we know that that is wrong for him. And we want him to take another action. When we want to follow, when we want to convince them that, you should follow this path, what we do, we have two tactics that we use. We tell the benefits of following the right path. And along with that, we also tell them about the difficulties of what will happen if he does the wrong thing, isn't it? Similarly, the Lord here, so far, he has tried to tell what is the good things about Karma Yoga and try to convince Arjuna that why you should do Karma Yoga. Now, since Arjuna is still not fully convinced, he is going to tell Arjuna about what are the difficulties in the path of Jnana Yoga, which Arjuna is saying that he wants to follow. So at the end of that, at least Arjuna should be convinced that Jnana Yoga is difficult. Now here if we see the teachings of the Alvars, the Divya Prabandham that they have composed in almost all those places, wherever that opportunity arises, they try to tell us what is the correct path to follow. Now, we think that if we have a lot of money, if we have a lot of well-wishers and friends, if we have status and fame in society, then all that will protect us. But Alvars want to convince us. So, what they tell us on the one hand that forget all these things. They are not going to protect you. They only say that God will only be capable of protecting you, nothing else. So, on the one hand, they tell us what is the right thing for us, that hang on to God because He will protect you. On the other hand, they also give us examples of other things which cannot protect us. So, like this, similar technique is being used by Krishna here. Now, we can't say Krishna is using same technique like Alvars because Alvars uh, composed and that came later. But the idea is the same, that when you want to make, now Krishna wants to make Arjuna follow the path of Karma Yoga. So far, he told him about what are the advantages of Karma Yoga. Now he is going to talk to him what are the disadvantages of Jnana Yoga. So here he is telling that I have given all the rules, I have given all my advice, right? In the Vedas, in the Upanishads. But just because the Lord has told good things will not happen, when will good happen? When the person at whom this teaching is aimed, when these people develop the mindset to follow those teachings of the Lord, only then we can see the results, isn't it? Like Krishna is telling Arjuna now, you can't do Jnana Yoga. Now, why is he saying this? We have to understand that. Now, even great jnanis, anybody who has attained the state of jnana, even those people, until they have this human form, they are under the influence of Prakriti. And because of that, they are bound to perform action. They cannot give up actions. Now, if great jnanis themselves cannot give up actions, then how can Arjuna give up action? And Arjuna is in reality not a jnani, isn't it? Because he has not come to the realization that jnanis have. He's still saying, this is my uncle, this is my grandfather, these are my brothers. So can you say that Arjuna is a jnani? No. So if those jnanis only cannot give up action, how Arjuna will succeed in giving up all actions and pursuing jnana yoga and getting ahead, right? And why is it that even the jnanis cannot give up actions? Because this prakriti which is there, because of that we have the tendencies, we have certain behavioral patterns. Now, why did we get that? Because in all our past janmas, we have behaved in a particular way. So naturally, our senses and the mind will run in that direction only. This is called as the influence of vasana. It is, I think, we use this word vasana, vasane, isn't it, to indicate smell. So if you've seen, suppose you've kept a strong smelling flower in one place, like let us say you've kept the jasmine flower somewhere. Even for a long time after you, if you remove the flowers after some time, still the smell will continue to linger in that area, isn't it? Similarly, whatever we have done, the actions, the behavior we have performed in all these janmas, they have made a strong impression on us. And because of that, in this janma also, when I take birth, I perform a similar set of actions. Who has taught that newborn child to suckle the mother for milk? Nobody has taught that, isn't it? But it is an instinct. It happens by itself. Spontaneously, the child starts to drink the milk from the mother. How is this? Because that action has been going on in numerous past janmas. So that instinct is there. Then you have seen some people, nobody in the family will be good in music, but this one child will suddenly be very good in music. How is that possible? If we had to say that everything happens as per genetics, that everything is by heredity through the DNA and genes and chromosomes that is passed on, you cannot explain this. But if that Atma had been part of an individual, I mean, had had a previous Janma where there was a lot of musical prowess that had been developed, then naturally in this Janma, you will start from there. That vasana is there. So like this, because of the influence of the vasanas, we behave a particular way. We are bound to perform some actions. Now, Arjuna wants to do Jnana Yoga, but is doing Jnana Yoga natural inclination for any of us? It is not. We know even now when we sit down to try and chant for some time silently, or we want to sit and meditate, or we want to concentrate on something, we have seen how distracting thoughts come and keep disturbing us. Now, if that doing dhyana, doing all this kind of activity was part of our, if we had vasana of that, then we would have got to it easily. We would have been able to have concentration very easily. But that's not part of our makeup, isn't it? So that is why it is not our natural inclination. So when Jnana Yoga is not our natural tendency, it will be very difficult to pursue that path. But doing karma, performing actions, is very much part of our tendencies. So that is why we have to follow that marga. And that is why Krishna is telling Arjuna that even the jnanis are behaving according to Prakriti because they are pushed by those vasanas. Now, if you are going to be pushed by the vasana, can you hope that by repressing those vasanas, by suppressing those vasanas, you will be able to overcome them, the influence of them? It will not happen like that. In the next sloka, he is going to tell them what is the answer to this. So, what we should do, that is going to come next. Now, why Krishna is telling all this to Arjuna now only? It's like if Arjuna says that he's going to pursue Jnana Yoga and go away and start, then Krishna can't seek to advise him. It's just like if there is a river which is flowing and there is a strong current at particular place, then you must have seen how the government has put up boards in those places saying that the strong current is there here, it is dangerous, please do not enter the water, please do not swim here, isn't it? Why those boards are put up there? They are like a warning. Why don't they have people to stand there and like somebody jumps into the water and then a guard can come there and say, why did you jump? Will it be of any use? No, not at all. So we should warn people before they get into the wrong situation. That is why here itself Krishna is telling Arjuna beforehand that, see, Jnana Yoga is going to be very difficult for you. So don't insist, don't be so adamant about pursuing that path. So then, now he says that how, what should Arjuna be doing? Why these vasanas have such a strong influence on us? That is what he tries to explain in the shloka. So here Krishna says in the 34th shloka, Indriyasyendriyasyarthe ragadveshau vyavastitau vasham agachet tau hyasya paripanthinau. The senses, these indriyas of ours, naturally they experience attachment and aversion to the sense objects. But do not be controlled by them, for they are waylayers and foes. Foes means enemies. Waylayers means they are like robbers, they are thieves, they are people who will divert your attention, right? So, what is this raga and dvesha? We have talked about this during the second chapter. And that is what here Krishna is explaining as attachment and aversion to the sense objects. Now, normally when we say sense objects, we think that we only have attachment for them, isn't it? Because we want to experience all the pleasurable sensations. But if there is something which is not pleasurable to us, we also have dvesha for that. We are having aversion for that. Like, let us say there is some, to a person who is very much of this world, okay, and very much lost in sense pleasures and all that. Now, to such a person, if their favorite song from some movie comes, they have a lot of attachment for that. They'll be very happy and they will sing along with that. But suppose to such a person, you start playing a slow bhajan, praising the Lord's qualities. Do you think they will have a liking for that, an affinity for that? They will be having an aversion for that. They will not like that at all. They will have dvesha towards that, right? So, based on what is that thing, our senses will be attached to certain objects and they will have aversion to certain objects. But we must not allow these senses to control us. Why? Because they are our enemies. They are going to divert us from the path. They are like robbers who will make sure that we go off, we lose whatever we have, right? So here the Acharya explain that Vedas, they are laying down the rules. We have heard all these things, isn't it? There are vakyas that tell us Satyam Vada, Dharmam Chara. you always speak the truth, you always follow the path of dharma, matra devo bhava, pitra devo bhava, treat your mother as God, respect your father as God, and so on and on. Now, although we know these things, are we able to always follow them? We can follow them sometimes, but there may be many times when we are not able to follow them. Now, when we know all these things, why are we not able to follow them? Isn't it? Because we say we are having Shraddha in the Lord's teachings, we are considering ourselves as Bhakta. Then why is it that despite knowing all these things, we can't follow? That again is because of two reasons. One is because of the influence of the vasanas. We already talked about these samskaras, which have come from many past janmas. So, because of those vasanas are very strong. They have taken hold of us. So, what happens is that because they are holding us so strongly in their grip, it is very difficult for us to make any kind of change. We are caught up in those negative kind of emotions. Then changing over to a positive mindset is very difficult. And any change we want to make is going to be very slow. It is going to be a tedious process. It will be very difficult. If you take one step ahead, you will take 9 steps back. That is going to be the pace of the change. And almost always, it is never immediate. It's only in the movies that they show that somebody, their mindset totally changed and suddenly they became good people. At the end of the movie, everybody is good and everyone is living happily ever after. That doesn't happen in real life, isn't it? That is because of the influence of vasanas. Secondly, the thing is that whatever these rules and things that Vedas are teaching us, we know and we understand it with our mind. Hmm? But what we see with our eyes, what we hear with our ears, the influence of that is much stronger than what we understand with our mind. Now, if there is a movie playing, then it is my eyes are seeing that. Then at that time, if there is a conflict between the thought that my eyes are saying, see this movie, my mind is telling me, watch this movie. And there is another part of the mind which is telling me that, see, that it is told that you should spend your time in doing namasmarana. Now, what happens? Why I should do namasmarana? It is something vague. It is because doing namasmarana will take me closer to God. And then I will get moksha. I am at something, it's going to happen sometime in the future, isn't it? So that's very hazy for me. That is not concrete enough. But this movie is there here right now. It is right in front of my eyes. I just have to press the button and it will start playing. So the influence of that, of what is immediately accessible to my sense organs, that is very strong. So that these two reasons, because of this, we know many times what is the right thing to do, but we are not able to follow it, right? So if we want to overcome this, if we want to get out of this pull of the vasanas, the vasanas have to grow weaker. When the vasana becomes weaker, that means my mind and my senses have to be subdued. Only then it is possible to do Jnana Yoga. So there are two ways in which we can change. Many times it is taught that one is you start, you know, thinking about doing the right thing, and then you will start doing those right things. The other way is you start doing the right things and slowly your thoughts also will change. Now, Jnana Yoga means you are going to try to subdue, to repress and suppress whatever impulses are coming from your senses and mind. And you will try to go on the right path. That is very difficult because the mind and senses are very strong. But if you say, okay, let those things be as they are, let the vasanas be as they are, I am just going to try and do one action correctly at a time. I'm going to try and cultivate one small part of the right bhava when I'm doing this particular action. When you keep doing that repeatedly, and as we already said, trying to control the mind, trying to control the senses, sitting in dhyana, all these are very difficult for us because they are not our natural tendency. But doing some action is our tendency. So when we keep performing actions, over a period of time, if we do those actions, those karmas with the right bhava, then the vasanas will change. And that is why it is told that karma yoga is the easier path. So, although we know we have access to all information, but doing jnana yoga is very difficult because the senses are attached or have hatred towards the objects. So, we must not allow them to control us because they will divert us. Now, where are these vasanas and how do you destroy it? They arise from the Panchagnanendriya and the Panchakarmendriya. Whenever there is a contact of the senses with the sense objects, then these influences of the vasana are there over our indriyas. Because of that, we have likes and dislikes, we have attachment and aversion, raga and dvesha. When we keep giving in to these likes and dislikes, we keep performing actions based on our likes and dislikes, then we are getting caught up in papa and punya. Once you have papa and punya and your account starts building up, you are definitely going to have punarjanma. You will have rebirth. When you are born again, what you are going to do? You are again going to have raga dvesha. Again, you are going to perform karma. Again, you are having papa punya. So to finish that, you are going to be born again. Like this, the cycle will go on continuing. So, what is it that Krishna is trying to explain to us in all this? He's telling us that you have to come out of this cycle. So, the path of Jnana Yoga to come out of the cycle is there, no doubt, but it is going to be very difficult. Instead, we must understand that these are our enemies. These indriyas, these vasanas, this raga and dvesha, they are our enemies. We cannot destroy them, but we can avoid them. It is like saying sometimes parents tell that if they find that their child is, has a group of friends and with those friends he is indulging in wrong behavior, then what you can do, you cannot change and make those friends into good people, but that you will, the parents will warn their child and advise their child to avoid the company of those friends, isn't it? Similarly, we can avoid these influences on our behavior. How? We must be alert that what is the influence of all these things on our action, and we have to arm ourselves against this. Who is going to protect us? Again, it is only the Lord who can protect us. And how do we say that we are going to protect ourselves against the influence of indriyas and vasanas? By doing karma, but with the right spirit. We perform actions without attachment to the outcome. We perform actions without wanting a particular outcome for our own pleasure. We perform our actions without a sense of kartritva, without the sense of doership. And we perform the actions for the joy of the Lord. And we dovetail the senses and forces of our tendency. That means we attach, we link up our senses, we link up our vasanas in the direction of God. As we have said so many times in previous satsangs, as advised in the Mukundamala by Kulashekar Alvar. Jivve kirtaya keshavam muraripum cheto bhaja sridharam. We turn our eyes, with our eyes we see the form of the Lord. With our ears we hear his kirtan. With our nose we smell the divine fragrance of the tulsi offered at his feet. With our hands and our legs we go to the temple, we worship the Lord, we perform seva of the Lord. With our tongue we sing his glories, with our tongue we taste his holy prasada. So whatever our senses want enjoyment, we link up that. We cannot do away with our senses, but we link our enjoyment of the senses to the divine experience of the Lord. And that is when we have the Lord with us to protect us. So when we perform our actions like this, by linking up everything to God, and by seeing that everything is God's work and He is doing it through me, then we will be able to keep these influence of these vasanas away. And that is why when we do karma yoga with this spirit, then we are able to overcome the dangers which will otherwise come to us when we are performing Jnana Yoga. So this is how Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna about, he talked so far about the good things of Karma Yoga. Now he is trying to tell Arjuna about what are the dangers of Jnana Yoga. Of course, when we are explaining all this, we are going back and forth, right? So the acharyas in their commentary also have told us, the explanations have been given so that we don't lose track, that we are talking about how Jnana Yoga is difficult. Along with that, simultaneously, we are revising about how Karma Yoga, how it has to be done and what is the right way of performing it so that we make progress faster, right? So with that, we have come to the end of our time for today's satsang. So let us stop here for now. We will offer Kritagnyata, gratitude, at the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and Guru. We thank them for inspiring us to start and join this satsang, and we pray for their blessings and grace to always be on us. Today is the auspicious occasion of Akshaya Tritiya. So let us pray that just like we have been in satsang today, let us continue to be blessed with the grace of the Lord by constantly having satsanga in our life, by always being in the company of people who have good thoughts, by trying to make ourselves change and transform so that we get closer to God every day, little by little. Whatever we do on the day of Akshaya Tritiya is supposed to be overflowing in our life, isn't it? So let us try and do more and more Namasmarana today and make this a good occasion so that it helps in our spiritual progress. Thank you everyone for attending, and we will meet again next Thursday. Namaskar.